What if tomorrow morning you woke up in a medieval winter? No warning, no time to prepare, just cold air, frozen ground, and a day full of work waiting outside your door. Would you last even one day? So dim the lights, lie back in your warm, modern bed, and let the cold world of the past unfold around you. No need to move. Just listen as one long, frozen day passes from darkness to darkness, slowly, painfully, and without escape. There's no sound, no color, no warmth, just dark. The kind of dark that feels thick, like it has weight. You know you're awake because your ribs ache. Your shoulder is sore from where it pressed against the packed earth through the bedding, and because the cold has seeped into every corner of your body. You haven't moved yet, but your joints already hurt. You can hear someone's breath nearby, uneven and shallow. A child, probably. Or your father. The blanket, if you can call it that, is damp and stiff in places. You don't know if it snowed last night, but the air tells you the cold is worse than yesterday. You blink, but it makes no difference. It's still black. Not from sleep, from winter. You inhale, carefully. The first breath always stings. It feels like it's cutting through your throat, dry and sharp, then settling as frost somewhere behind your chest. You try not to cough. It would wake the others, and besides, it would hurt. Something crunched under your neck when you shifted. A straw stalk, maybe, or ice. You'd rather not find out. Your body tells you to turn over, to curl tighter, to do anything to find warmth. But there isn't any. Not here. Your fingertips are numb, but not dead yet. You slide your hand out from under the blanket and touch the edge of the hearth. It's just a hole, really, a circle of ash and stone. Nothing glows inside it. The fire died sometime in the night. You didn't hear it. You never do. The silence is thick, but not peaceful. It's the kind of silence where you can hear the house itself, wood expanding and contracting under the cold. Something dripping slowly in the corner, a shift in the rafters. You can hear someone else stir, a rustle of fabric, a low cough. Still, no one speaks. No one ever does at this hour. Not because they're sleeping, but because waking up means acknowledging the day, and no one is ready for that yet. You stare up at the ceiling, though it's invisible in the dark. You know every line of it by memory, where the boards are cracked, where last spring's leak stained the wood, where the spider lives in the beam just above your head. Nothing moves up there now, not even the spider. It's too cold. You pull your hand back under the blanket and close your eyes again, but not to sleep, just to delay. Because you know what comes next. You'll have to get up. You'll have to find kindling, if it's dry. You'll have to coax fire out of nearly dead ash. You'll have to step outside. You'll have to check if the door froze shut again. You'll have to break ice. Your body remembers it before your thoughts can form. Your knees remember the sting of the snow. Your back remembers the bend. Your palms remember the splinters. This day hasn't started yet, but it's already happening. You lie still a moment longer, letting the cold sink deeper until it pushes you, not with urgency, but inevitability. The blanket doesn't cover everyone, not really. It's just wide enough to stretch across your shoulders and maybe down to the knees of the youngest. Someone's foot is pressing against your thigh, small, cold, twitching slightly as they shift in their sleep. Another child has rolled toward you, their breath warm but fast, their nose probably running again. You can feel their ribs moving under the blanket, the way only thin children breathe, high and shallow, like they're trying not to make noise. A third body is curled near your back, and you think it's your daughter, the quiet one, the one who doesn't complain even when her fingers are red from cold. The blanket shifts every time one of them moves, letting cold air seep into new corners. There's no point adjusting it. It never stays in place. Everyone knows this, but no one says anything. No one has the energy to fix what will break again in minutes. The bed isn't a bed. It's just a platform of wood, with straw piled thin and uneven, half of it crushed flat. The smell is part sweat, part damp, part something you've learned to stop noticing. Your back has been wet since yesterday, or maybe longer. You can't remember the last time the straw was dry. Sometimes you try to rearrange it before sleeping, pull out the worst of the moldy pieces, shake off what clings. But it always feels the same by morning. Soggy, sour, cold. The children don't complain. Not because they don't feel it, but because complaining doesn't do anything. You've taught them that without words. You've shown them with silence. You all lie still, trying not to move too much, because even a shift of the hips or a cough can send a jolt of cold down someone else's spine. Your wife lies at the far edge, one arm draped over the youngest, her face turned toward the wall. She hasn't spoken either. You don't know if she's asleep or pretending. Her hair is tangled, pressed flat where it's frozen slightly to the wood, and her breath fogs the air just like yours. Her shoulder is uncovered. You could reach over, pull the blanket back toward her, but you'd have to take it off someone else. And she hasn't asked. She never does. Somewhere at the foot of the bed, your father is trying not to cough. You hear the sound start in his chest, a deep, dry rattle, but he swallows it down. He knows it'll wake the children, and the last thing any of you want is for someone to wake up crying. The room is silent, but it isn't calm. Every body is a problem. Every breath shared makes the air wetter, heavier. The warmth you might have gained from lying close is canceled out by the damp and the knowledge that no one here is resting. You're together, but not at peace. You feel the tension in your own arms, not from fear, but from years of knowing that morning means hunger, work, and cold, and it's almost morning. The children shift again, and this time one of them whimpers, then stills. You press your hand gently against their back, not to soothe, just to make sure they're there. You listen to their breathing, to the other's breathing, to your own. You count them without thinking. 1, 2, 3, 4. And remind yourself they're all alive, for now. You move as little as possible, not out of laziness, but because the cold punishes movement more than stillness. Slowly, you ease your arm out from under the shared blanket, and immediately, the air bites down. It feels like plunging into snow. Your fingers don't respond right away. They've been pressed against your ribs for hours, curled and locked in place. You flex them, try to will life back into them. It doesn't work. When you finally manage to sit up, your body protests with creaks and aches. The air inside the house is colder than you remembered, colder even than yesterday. Or maybe it's just deeper. Everything always feels deeper in winter. The dark, the cold, the silence. The hearth is barely a shape in the gloom. You can make out the outline of the stones, the faintest hint of disturbed ash. There's no glow, no smoke, nothing but gray dust and memory. You crouch near it, wrapping your arms tight around your own chest for a moment before forcing your hands forward. The ash is soft, fine, almost pleasant to the touch if it weren't so cold. You brush gently, hoping, foolishly, to find one coal still alive, one glowing dot hidden under the ruin. Your fingertips scrape through layers of powder. Nothing. Then chufu. Maybe something faint, like warmth remembered rather than felt. A single coal, not glowing but not dead. You blow on it softly, then harder. The air feels useless, but you try again and again. Eventually, you give up on subtlety. You gather whatever is closest. A few scraps of kindling, a strip of dry bark from the pile you keep inside when you can, even a torn corner of cloth if you have it. Your hands don't grip well. They move like mitts, clumsy and dull. You drop one twig, pick it up with difficulty, then position everything carefully, like a man trying to light a fire underwater. You blow again and again. A thin line of smoke rises, faint and stubborn. A flicker, then darkness. You repeat the process. Minutes pass. Your knees hurt from the hard-packed earth. Someone coughs behind you, a short, shallow rasp, then another. The fire refuses. But then, a glow, weak and flickering. It's not a flame, but it's not ash either. You shield it with your hands, breathing onto it like it's a wounded thing. It catches. Briefly, you lean in closer, too close, and feel the sting of heat against your nose. Sharp, dry, unexpected. You pull back. The glow steadies. Not enough to warm the room, or even your palms, but enough to say that the fire isn't dead. Not yet. You press your hands near it, close but not touching. It hurts. Heat against numbness always does. Pins and needles shoot through your fingers, cruel and familiar. But still, it's something. A beginning. You sit there a while longer, feeding it slowly, waiting until it's alive enough to not vanish the moment you stand. You don't speak, no one does. Behind you, the others are still pretending to sleep. But everyone is waiting for this. The house watches your hands and waits for flame. The fire's breath is shallow, and so is everyone else's. You sit by the hearth, still hunched, half turned toward the others, and you can hear them even if you can't see their faces. A ragged cough starts somewhere behind you, low and dry. Then another one joins it, tighter, higher pitched. One of the children. The sound rolls through the room like something that doesn't want to leave. It doesn't stop all at once either. It stutters and fades, catches in someone's throat, then returns with a new edge. Your wife makes a sound like she's clearing her lungs, but there's no force behind it. She's wheezing now, soft and constant, a background hum under everything else. You glance back, not because you can see anything in this light, but because that's what you do when you feel helpless. The air isn't just cold, it's wet. Every breath feels heavier than the last, sticking inside you like fog. The walls sweat in winter. So do the rafters. You can feel the moisture clinging to your clothes, to your skin, to the back of your tongue. It's the kind of damp that never leaves. It just changes shape, from frost to drip to mold and back again. Your father hasn't moved. He's curled in the same corner he always takes, wrapped in the same patched wool, pulled down to the bridge of his nose. You're not sure if he's asleep or saving energy. He coughs the least of anyone, but when he does, It sounds like something tearing. The kind of sound that takes something out of a person each time. He doesn't complain, but he doesn't speak either. You haven't heard his voice in 2 days. The sniffles come from somewhere near the foot of the bed, probably your youngest. The rhythm of it is maddening. Inhale, snort, half cough, silence. Then again, and again. You think about handing them something, a cloth, a sleeve, anything, but there's no point. Everything is already soaked, and there's no clean left. They'll sniffle until their nose bleeds or the cold numbs it shut. No one asks for anything anymore. The room is so quiet between coughs that you can hear someone scratching their scalp. Not frantically. Just the slow, tired motion of dry skin under coarse hair. Maybe lice, maybe not. You don't have the energy to care. There's a faint creak in the beams overhead, the wood expanding or giving in. The air smells like smoke, old sweat, and something faintly sour. No one lights a candle. You wouldn't waste the tallow. The fire is just bright enough now to throw a softest orange across the floorboards. Not light, but suggestion. You see shadows moving, barely. You don't speak, not because there's nothing to say, but because words don't help. Everyone is waiting for someone else to be the first to move, to rise, to mark the beginning of the day. But while you wait, you listen. You listen to the house, not just the people, but the structure itself. The way the wind creeps between planks, the slow drip of meltwater into a corner bowl, the thump of something outside falling off the roof. But mostly, it's the coughing. The room breathes like one thing, wet, rattling, reluctant. It isn't panic. It's just life here. You put it off as long as you can. The fire's caught now, barely. Enough to give you a reason to move, not enough to pretend it's warm. You rise slowly, every joint stiff, back hunched forward from habit and cold. Your feet hit the packed dirt floor, rough and grainy with ash and stray straw. You grab your outer wrap from the nail beside the door. It's stiff with yesterday's damp. You don't bother with shoes yet. No point. You just need to get the door open. That's always first. One hand braces on the wall, the other fumbles with the latch. You push. Nothing. You push again, harder. Something thuds on the other side. It hasn't just frozen. It's been sealed shut by snowdrift overnight. You lean in, shoulder against wood, giving it your weight. There's a low groan as the frame shifts. The wood doesn't want to move, but neither do you, so you keep going. The latch sticks. Your wrist twists. Something snaps. Not the wood, but a sound from your shoulder. You ignore it. With a final shove, the door cracks open, not wide, just enough to let air scream through the gap. The wind hits you like claws, sharp, direct, unkind. You don't step out yet. You brace the door, grip the edge, and pull it the rest of the way open. A wave of snow spills inward, heavy and wet, scattering across the threshold. Some of it hits your legs. Some lands on the firewood. Some just melts into the dirt. You exhale, then regret it. The breath comes back cold. The light outside is flat, gray-blue, the kind that makes the world look stillborn. Snow has buried the path. It reaches halfway up the outer wall. No prints, no sign of dogs, no sign of anything. The wind is moving in small bursts, not screaming, just tearing, like it's tired of howling and has settled into gnawing. You reach for the broom, but it's not where it should be. probably buried. You grab the nearest stick instead and start pushing snow away from the doorway with one hand, holding the door with the other. It resists. It always does. You work like this for a few minutes, legs spread for balance, snow creeping into your sleeves and collar. You can't feel your fingertips again. That didn't take long. When the entrance is just barely clear, you stop. You stand there, leaning on the doorframe, breathing in steam and ice. Your body hurts in the same places it always does: knees, lower back, hands. But today the ache feels deeper, less distant. Maybe because of the wind. Maybe because of the silence. Behind you, the door is still open, just a crack. Cold pours in. You know you'll hear about it from your wife if you let it go much longer. Not with words, with a look. But you stay a few seconds longer, eyes narrowed, trying to judge how much work the morning will take. The snow has erased yesterday, and it promises to do the same again tomorrow. The first step outside isn't brave, it's automatic. You do it not because you want to, but because you always do. The cold wraps around your legs instantly, soaking through the worn fabric before you've even closed the door behind you. The snow is soft at the top, but heavy underneath, like walking on layered sand soaked in ice. You sink past the ankle, and your foot hits something solid. Maybe a rock, maybe yesterday's frozen footprints. It doesn't matter. The pain lingers either way. You don't stop. There's no point. The path you usually follow has disappeared under a flat, perfect whiteness, and your body just moves forward, relying on muscle memory, not vision. Each step leaves a hole behind you, shallow and sloppy. The wind stirs them closed almost instantly. You pull your wrap tighter around your neck, but the cloth is stiff, and the knot from yesterday's drying has set into it like bone. You breathe through your nose, then through your mouth, then both. Nothing helps. The air doesn't fill your lungs so much as scratch them raw. Your ears burn, then go numb. The tip of your nose feels like wax. Your left boot is already letting in water, and your right heel is rubbing against the seam in a way you'll remember later, when the blood soaks through the wool. But for now, you just move. The world is colorless and bitter. The sky isn't cloudy or clear. It's simply there, dull and oppressive, like a wet cloth pulled tight above the earth. Trees huddle in the distance, hunched under snow, their shapes strange and silent. You don't look around much. The landscape doesn't change. The fences are half submerged, the roofs white-lidded and bent. Somewhere across the field, you think you see smoke, but it could just be breath. Your eyes water in the wind, and it freezes on your lashes, making everything shimmer in the ugliest way. The walk to the well isn't long, maybe 50 steps, but each one is slower now, heavier. You used to run this stretch when you were younger, when snow meant something to throw or chase. Now it's just weight, the kind that fills your boots, stiffens your knees, and makes your lungs feel small. You lean slightly forward as you walk, like you're carrying something even when your hands are empty. The well comes into view only when you're nearly on top of it. A low, round shape half sunk in snow, with the bucket still resting where you left it, tilted, crusted with frost, the rope stiff as bone. You reach for the edge of the stone ring, fingers brushing powder off its rim, and peer down into the blackness. You can't see water. You never can. It's down there, maybe, but hidden beneath a layer of ice as thick as your hand. Still, you stand there for a moment, catching your breath, not because you're tired, though you are, but because stopping is the only reward you get. For a few seconds, you don't move. You just listen. The wind rattles a shutter somewhere behind you. A dog barks faintly, distant and slow, then stops. The rest is silence. Cold, sharp, endless silence. You pick up the handle, thick and splintered, and try to adjust your grip. The head of the tool is a blunt iron wedge, not sharp enough to split wood anymore, but heavy enough to break ice when swung just right. It's not much, but it's what you have. Your fingers curl around the shaft slowly, unwilling, stiff with the cold. You don't wear gloves for this. You can't feel the weight right with cloth in the way. And it doesn't matter. The cold will reach through them anyway. You raise the iron, swing it down, and the sound that follows is low and flat, more of a thunk than a crack. The surface of the ice gives only a little. No shatter, no clean break. Just a bruise on something too hard to care. You draw the iron back again, slower this time. Your wrist already aches. The second strike lands slightly off-center, and you feel the vibration travel straight through your bones. The numbness spreads quickly, not the surface kind, but the deeper kind, where you start to forget what fingers are supposed to feel like. You exhale sharply, and a thick cloud of breath curls upward, hangs there for a moment, then dissolves into the gray morning. The wind takes some of it, swirls it sideways, makes it dance before disappearing. You blink and swing again. The ice still doesn't give. Not really. A flake peels off, thin, sharp, useless. You clear it with the edge of your boot and try again. It's not the thickness that makes it hard. It's the cold, how it clings to the metal, to your skin, to your lungs. You pause, shift your weight, shake your hand out, though the motion barely helps. You know the routine. This isn't the first time this week, or this winter. And you know it'll be harder tomorrow. It's always harder tomorrow. The surface is finally cracked now, a spider web of pale lines spreading from the center. It's enough to make a dent, maybe reach the water if you keep going. You brace one foot against the well's base and strike again, this time with both hands. A dull echo sounds from below, muted and thick, like noise trapped in cloth. You're sweating now, just a little, and it's the worst kind, the kind that doesn't warm you, just adds wet to the inside of your shirt. Your breath is heavier, fogging in and out in short bursts. It smells like metal and morning. Finally, something gives. A piece shifts, wobbles, then sinks with a soft, crackling sound. You drop the iron and lean forward, reaching down with the rope, guiding the bucket carefully into the blackness. The rope creaks with tension. Your fingers slip a little on the wet fibers, and you remember, again, that you need to rewrap that section. Maybe tonight, maybe not. The bucket hits the surface with a splash and you wince. The water's real, cold but real. You draw it up slowly, muscles tight, spine locked, boots slipping slightly against the packed snow underfoot. When it reaches the top, you hold it for a second, just breathing. Steam rises faintly from the surface. You don't smile. There's no triumph. Just the next step. You dump the water into the wooden tub beside the well, watch it slosh and settle, and go back for more. You need at least 3 buckets before you can stop. The door sticks again on the way in. You shoulder it closed, snow clinging to your boots, to your wrap, to your breath. The warmth inside isn't real warmth. Just the memory of a fire starting to remember its job. The hearth gives off a dull orange flicker now, barely enough to cut the gray of the morning. You move quickly, but without hurry. Nothing in winter happens fast. You pour the water into the pot, thick-bellied and blackened with years of smoke, and place it back over the coals. It hisses faintly. Steam rises slowly, winding into the room like something reluctant. The smell's mostly wood and ash. The broth has little scent left. Whatever bones flavored it yesterday have done their work and disappeared. What remains is thin, more water than meal, but it's warm, and warm counts. You crouch near the pot, using a bit of cloth to shift it once or twice, more out of habit than necessity. Behind you, the others begin to move. One child sits up, rubbing their eyes with the back of a raw fist. Another pulls the blanket tighter, refusing to face the morning. Your wife leans against the wall, covering a cough with her wrist. Your father is still in the corner, awake but unmoving, staring at nothing. The crackling of the fire is soft, irregular, more like a breath than a burn. You take down the bowls one by one, careful not to chip the already chipped rims. They don't match. Some wood, some clay, all worn smooth with use. You pour a ladle into each, slow to avoid spills, though there's not enough to lose. The children eat first. That's how it is. That's how it's always been. No one says it aloud. They just wait. You hand them the bowls one at a time, and they take them with both hands, heads down, eyes still fogged with sleep. They don't thank you, not because they're ungrateful, but because gratitude is something extra, a layer no one has time for. The youngest blows on the surface, lips chapped and trembling. The middle one stirs with their finger. The oldest doesn't wait, just drinks. You watch them for a moment, then turn back to the hearth. You don't take a bowl yet, neither does your wife. The fire's doing better now, and you add one more sliver of wood to keep it going, careful not to smother it. You think about the rest of the day. You don't want to, but it happens anyway. When everyone has a bowl, even your father, who cradles his like it's hot wine, you finally take what's left. It barely covers the bottom. You sip it slowly, not for flavor, but for heat. It's enough to warm your teeth, if not your stomach. Across the room, your wife lowers her bowl without finishing. She glances toward the pot, but doesn't ask for more. You nod once, faintly, and she stands, joints stiff, and starts gathering the others' bowls. The children have already begun to huddle again, not to sleep, but to preserve warmth. The food isn't meant to satisfy. It's meant to begin the day and to say, here we are, still breathing, still standing. That will have to be enough. The bowl is empty before you realize you've finished it. It doesn't matter. You set it down near the wall and stand, brushing your palms on your knees. The fire crackles, half satisfied for now, but you know what it costs to keep it fed. The wood by the hearth is almost gone. A few small branches, a splintered log, and one damp knot of kindling. It might last the morning, maybe, but not the day. You move toward the back wall, where the tools lean, worn, chipped, tired in their own way. Your axe is still there, still heavy, still real in your hand. The haft is smooth where it shouldn't be, slick with years. You grip it anyway, because there's no other. It feels heavier than usual. Or maybe your arms just remember the weight from yesterday. You don't have to call your son. He's already up, already pulling on his outer wrap, already reaching for the rope coil that hangs from the rafter. It's not thick, too short for real hauling, but enough to bundle branches or drag a stump if needed. He doesn't say a word. He just nods once and follows you toward the door. His eyes are still swollen with sleep, but there's no question in them. Just readiness. Or what passes for it. The others don't speak either. Your wife watches without watching, her hand wiping one of the bowls with a cloth that's more whole than fabric. The younger children stay near the fire, pretending to rest. Your father hasn't moved. You push open the door, slower this time, and the wind pushes back. You let it hit you. There's no sense hiding from it. Outside, the sky is pale and dead, like a bruise before it fades. The snow is untouched again, yesterday's path swallowed overnight. You step into it anyway, carving a new trail with your boots, the axe held low in your hand. The boy follows in your steps, the rope tucked under his arm. Each footfall is a negotiation, packed ice under powder, hidden dips and hardened crust. You head toward the grove behind the fence line, where the thinner trees grow at a slant and the brush never quite thickens. It's not far, but far enough to feel it. Your breath fogs, your lips sting. You don't speak, neither does he. Words freeze out here faster than fingers, and nothing important needs saying. The work will do the talking soon enough. As you walk, you take quiet stock of your son beside you. He's grown taller in the past year, but still narrow in the shoulders. His hands are red and cracked. You know they sting, even under the cloth wraps. But he doesn't flinch. He carries the rope with both hands now, his eyes fixed on the ground ahead. You remember when you first taught him to carry, how he dropped it in the snow the first time, how he cried when the ice slipped inside his collar. He doesn't cry anymore. You wish he still did. But instead, he walks like a man, silent, steady, and cold. Just like you, just like every man you knew at his age. The axe grows heavier the closer you get to the trees, but your grip tightens anyway. The wind has picked up, and the branches are waiting. You spot him before he sees you. Just a shadow near the edge of the grove, bent low, one arm waving in slow, uneven arcs. At first you think it's someone clearing snow, maybe digging out a path. But then you recognize the coat, the stooped frame, the way he shifts his weight from one leg to the other. It's Eric, from the house with the smoke-darkened shutters and the sagging chimney. He doesn't shout. He just raises one arm and gestures sharply, once then again. That's enough, you sigh softly, though the air catches in your throat when you do. You turn to your son and nod toward the trees. Go on. I'll come find you, you mutter, voice low, rough from the cold and disuse. He hesitates, just for a breath, then keeps walking. The rope trails behind him like a frozen tail. You change course and trudge toward Eric, boots crunching over a layer of brittle ice. The snow near his house is deeper, packed from the wind and sloped off the eaves. He meets you halfway, face pale and drawn. It's started to cave, he says. No greeting, no apology. Just the problem. You glance up. He's right. One side of the roof has bowed inward. The thatch split open under a heavy blanket of snow that sagged and then froze. A timber must have shifted beneath it. Or maybe the rot from last year finally gave out. Either way, it won't hold another day. Maybe not another hour. I've got beams, he adds. But I can't lift them alone. You nod. Of course he can't. He's older than you by a decade and thinner than the rope your son carries. You don't answer. You just set down the axe and move toward the wall. The tools are already there. A hooked pole, a ladder patched with wire, a pile of half-frozen branches he's hoping to use as bracing. You climb first, boots slipping once before catching on the rung. The thatch crunches under your weight. The snow hasn't just settled. It's turned to ice in places, heavy and slick. Eric hands you the end of a beam and braces the other from below. You haul it slowly, your back screaming in quiet protest. The wind catches your sleeve and tries to twist you sideways, but you press down and hold. You shift the weight into place, wedge it under the crossbeam, then hammer in 2 rusted nails with the heel of your palm. It's not perfect, but nothing here is. The work lasts longer than it should. You move like old men, even though you're not old yet. The snow slips into your collar. The cold eats through your knees. Your fingers stop obeying by the time the second beam is lifted. You patch what you can with bundles of straw tied in rush rope, stuffing them into the gaps with numb hands. Eric says little, just nods, breathes, points. You follow. It's not generosity that keeps you there. It's necessity. Today it's his roof. Tomorrow it could be yours. When the last piece is in place, you climb down slowly, legs trembling from the cold and the strain. He offers you half a potato from his coat pocket, half frozen and raw. You take it, bite once, chew slowly. It tastes like earth. You don't thank him. He doesn't expect it. You find your son just where you expected, near the trees, bent over a pile of snow-dusted branches, rope coiled at his feet. He doesn't wave, just looks up once, sees you coming, and goes back to working. You don't say anything either. The two of you gather in silence. The trees here are thin, mostly birch and some crooked pine, the kind that grow too close together, competing for gray light and frozen soil. Their limbs droop under the weight of clumped snow, cracking slowly, like knuckles. You pick a trunk that's already leaning and start with the back of the axe, knocking off frozen bark, testing the base. The wood moans softly, shifts, then holds. Your son works ahead of you, dragging downed branches into a rough pile, his breath fogging in short, white bursts. The first real swing lands with a dull thud. Not sharp, not clean, just impact. The blade catches, sticks, and you wrench it back with effort. The second strike splits the grain unevenly, sending a spray of wet fibers into the snow. Water seeps out of the log like it's bleeding. You hate chopping wet wood. It doesn't crack. It absorbs. Every piece is a weight that fights back. The head of the axe is cold, and the haft rubs raw at your palm where the glove wore thin. You strike again, and again, and again. The rhythm isn't smooth. It never is in this weather. Each log takes longer than it should. The edges fray instead of breaking. When one finally splits, it does so with reluctance, like it's trying to stay whole just to spite you. You keep working, muscles tight and slow, joints clicking in protest. The heat you expect, the kind that usually rises in your back after half an hour of swinging, doesn't come. The sweat starts, yes, but it's shallow, the kind that chills you instead of warming. Your shirt sticks to your ribs. Your breath grows heavier, not faster. You roll your shoulder once, trying to loosen a knot that's lived there since last winter. No luck. The pile grows slowly. Your son stacks the usable pieces near the rope, adding them with care, checking each one for rot or ice. You glance up once, catch him watching your hands. He says nothing. You nod. He nods back. The pile is still too small. You both know it. By the time your arms begin to shake, you decide that's enough. Not because the work is done, it never is, but because your grip is slipping and the axe doesn't forgive mistakes. You lean the tool against your leg, flex your fingers. They tingle, then ache, then go flat again. You and your son gather what you can, tying the rope around the thickest bundle, hoisting it between you. The walk back is slower than the walk in. The snow's packed deeper now, and your boots catch in unseen ridges. You don't speak. You just haul. Your shoulders burn. The logs shift, threaten to fall, and you readjust with a grunt. The cold sinks in under your collar, as if reclaiming what little heat your body dared to create. By the time the cottage comes into view, you feel colder than when you left. You don't stop long at the cottage, just enough to drop the first load of firewood near the wall, shake snow from your coat, and take 2 long breaths that don't help. The fire inside is still burning, barely. You hear the muffled sounds of movement, maybe coughing, maybe someone scraping a bowl. You don't go in. If you sit down, you won't get back up. The axe stays by the door. You just pick up the rope again, sling it over your shoulder, and turn back toward the trees. The wind has changed direction. It comes now in slow, heavy gusts. Not sharp, not loud, just thick and constant, like someone pushing against your chest with a damp cloth. The sky has darkened without growing darker. It's the kind of shift that happens before more snow. Not hours from now. Sooner. The path you carved an hour ago is already soft again, its edges blurred and sinking. Your own footprints are half filled, fading fast. You try to follow them anyway, not because they help much, but because it's easier than guessing. You take longer steps now, trying to cover ground faster, but your knees fight you. The snow is heavier, somehow wetter than before, sticking to your boots and dragging you down with each step. You lean forward out of habit, like you're pulling a weight, and you are, though it's mostly in your legs. One misstep sends you off the edge of your trail, into a pocket of deeper snow. Your foot sinks hard and you lurch sideways, catching yourself with a curse and a stiff-jointed correction. It doesn't hurt, but something feels wrong. You keep going. The snow covers everything now, even the low branches you usually duck under. They sag with weight, heavy with clumped frost, and they brush against your shoulders like wet towels. One dumps its load straight down your collar, and the jolt of cold is enough to make your teeth click together. You hiss and shake it off, but the damage is done. The wet finds the seam of your shirt and settles there, pulsing like ice against your spine. The numbness starts in your left foot, where the boot has never quite sealed right. It spreads fast, climbing into your ankle and leaving a dull ache behind. You try to shift your weight to the other leg, but it doesn't help. Both feet are cold now. One just doesn't feel it. The forest looks different this time, quieter. The snow has covered the usual markers: the split stump, the bent tree with the scar in the bark, the low fence post. You have to guess more. The world feels flat, like the sky has pressed down on the trees and flattened all the distance between things. You breathe in through your nose, taste iron, and press forward. Your son is already there ahead of you, crouched low, sorting through branches. He doesn't hear you right away. When he does, he nods again. The same quiet signal. You nod back. Then you drop the rope and kneel beside the pile. The branches are frozen to the ground now. You dig them out with your hands, one by one, your breath rasping, your fingers stiff, the numbness in your foot blooming wider like a bruise. No one says a word. The forest swallows everything. You start with the low branches, the ones heavy with snow but still dry underneath. The axe is dull, but you've used worse. You wedge the edge into a thick limb and lean with your weight, sawing more than swinging. The branch groans, then cracks, the sound sharp in the stillness of the woods. Snow drops from above as you work, landing on your neck, your wrists, the inside of your sleeves. It melts fast, soaking into the cloth, bringing cold to places that hadn't gone numb yet. You move to the next one, then the next. Your breath fogs in fast bursts, your jaw clenched, your spine bent too far for too long. The muscles between your shoulders are tight now, stretched like old rope, and each pull of your arms sends a small warning up through your back. You ignore it. Your son trails behind, gathering the cut branches and pulling them toward the rope pile. He doesn't speak, doesn't ask for help, doesn't complain. He watches your hands, then mimics. He knows which pieces to keep. Not the green ones, not the rotten ones, just the dry limbs that might still give off a little heat if dried next to the hearth. His breath comes in steady puffs, shorter than yours, but paced. The rope coils grow steadily. He wraps them with a practiced twist, tugging each knot firm, checking them like you taught him. Once a branch snaps under his arm and hits him in the thigh. He winces but says nothing. You see it. You say nothing too. That's how it works out here. Pain is just another part of the task, like snow or bark or silence. After a while, you change tools. The axe has done what it can. You use your hands now, breaking smaller limbs by bracing them against your knee and pressing down. The bark grates against your palms. The wood bites your skin, leaves tiny cuts, invisible now, but stinging later when they find heat. You keep going. Your back feels longer than usual, like it's being pulled in opposite directions. You shift your stance, try to stand straight, but the cold won't let your muscles relax. Every joint in your fingers cracks now when you bend them. Every breath scrapes, but the pile is growing. That's all that matters. Work, no matter how painful, still looks like progress. That's something winter can't take from you. When the bundle looks big enough, you stand back and look at your son. He's flushed, his hair wet with melted snow, shoulders tense under the weight of his coat. He glances at the pile, then back to you, waiting. You nod once. He kneels and starts binding the last branches, looping rope tight, leaning his knee into the stack to keep it from shifting. You wipe your palms on your trousers, leaving 2 dark streaks, and pick up the axe again, just in case. You know this isn't the last bundle. There's always another, always more. But for now, this one will do. You stretch once, careful and slow, feeling the pull from hip to shoulder, and then you step back into the trail you carved on the way in, shallower now, almost erased by fresh snow. The forest doesn't remember you, but you remember it. By the time you reach the house, your arms are shaking. Not from cold, not exactly, but from the kind of exhaustion that settles in slowly and doesn't leave. You and your son carry the bundle between you. dragging it the last few steps through slush and ice-matted straw. The rope bites into your palms. Your boots are soaked. The snow near the threshold is churned into gray mud, and you kick some of it aside with your heel before stepping in. The door groans when you open it. Again. It drags slightly now, warped from too many seasons of frost and thaw. You have to lean into it with your shoulder to get it to latch, and even then, a sliver of wind finds its way in through the crack near the hinge. The cold will follow. It always does. Inside, the smell of smoke has thickened. Not warm, not pleasant. Acrid, heavy, stale. The hearth still glows, but the chimney isn't drawing properly again. You feel it in your throat as soon as you exhale. Your wife is crouched near the fire, feeding it carefully, her face pink from the heat and the smoke. The children are quieter than before. One lies curled on a blanket near the wall, thumb in mouth, eyes half closed. Another is sitting up, idly scratching a pattern into the dirt floor with a stick. Your father hasn't moved. Maybe sleeping, maybe not. The floor beneath you is wet, a mix of melted snow and spilled broth and whatever tracked in from outside. You don't try to clean it. There's no point. It'll be wet again by the hour. You carry the firewood toward the wall and begin stacking it in the narrow space between the door and the hearth. It's not much. Maybe enough for 2 days if you stretch it. Less if the nights stay this cold. The bark is still frozen in places. Some pieces hiss when you set them too close to the coals. You sort them roughly, wet to the left, dry to the right, and kick aside a cracked bowl to make space. Your son drops the last armful with a quiet grunt, then stands there for a moment, staring at the orange light. His cheeks are red. His lips are cracked. You gesture toward the corner where the others rest. He goes without a word, kneels beside his sister, and takes her hand. She doesn't look up. He doesn't expect her to. You settle by the fire for a moment, letting your legs bend slowly, like they've forgotten how. The heat touches your face but doesn't reach your bones. Your hands sting as they thaw, the sharp kind of pain that comes before feeling returns. You let it happen. The house is quiet except for the fire, a cough from the corner, the scrape of wet wood against stone. The wind still slips through the crack in the door, curling low around your ankles. You should fix it. You won't. Not today. You lean back slightly, shift your weight, and stare into the fire like it might answer something. It won't. It never does. But it keeps burning. For now, that's all you need. The meal begins without a word. No one announces it. No one calls for the others or asks if it's ready. Your wife lifts the pot from the hook with a cloth-wrapped hand, sets it near the hearth, and begins ladling what's inside into the same mismatched bowls as before. You hear the slow sound of liquid sloshing. Thick, not quite water anymore, but not soup either. Just something warm that used to be food. Boiled roots, mostly turnip, a few strips of yellowed parsnip, maybe a shred of onion if any was left from the cellar. The scent is not appetizing, but it fills the room, replaces the smoke for a few moments. It smells like effort, like patience, like settling. You step forward, take your bowl when it's handed to you, and move back without speaking. No one sits. It's not tradition or politeness. It's just easier this way. The floor is wet, the blankets occupied, the benches too low and the joints too stiff. So you all stand, bowls in hand, spaced unevenly around the fire like stones around a pit. You blow on the steam, then sip slowly. The roots are soft, barely holding their shape. One piece is undercooked, still firm at the center. Another has gone translucent, almost sweet. You chew without thought. There's nothing to savor, only something to swallow. Across from you, your son eats quickly, lips barely touching the spoon. Your youngest lets the steam rise into their face like warmth is a scent they can breathe in deeper than it reaches. Your wife takes small bites, always watching the pot between each one. No one finishes their portion at the same time. Some eat fast, eager to move on or simply too hungry to pace it. Others eat slowly, dragging each bite out like it might make the next task wait. Your father still hasn't touched his. He holds the bowl, stares into it, lifts it once, lowers it again. He doesn't look confused, just tired beyond the point of wanting. You don't press him. The fire is low again. You add a log from the dry side, and it hisses like meat in a pan. The noise makes one of the children flinch. You hadn't noticed how still the room had become until sound returned to it. Someone coughs. Then nothing. The food fills your belly just enough to remind it how empty it was before. Not more than that. When it's over, bowls are placed near the hearth again, some scraped clean with fingers, some not. No one asks for seconds. There aren't any. The pot is nearly dry. Your wife wipes the ladle with a rag and tucks it back into its place without rinsing. You nod to her once. Not thanks, just acknowledgement. She nods back, already turning toward the pile of cloths in the corner that need rewrapping. The others drift apart, not quite toward rest, but toward waiting. You hold your empty bowl for a moment longer, feeling the faintest trace of warmth against your palms. It will fade in seconds. You set it down carefully, not because it's fragile, but because it's one of the few things that feels finished. The air inside the pen is thicker than outside. Not warmer, just more crowded. The low roof traps the scent of straw, rot, old wood, and animal breath. You duck your head as you enter, the handle of the shovel already biting into your palm before the work begins. The floor is packed with days of buildup, straw mashed into mud, urine frozen into black ridges, manure hardened into mounds that have to be chipped free before they can be moved. You test the edge of the shovel against one of the ridges. It doesn't cut. It scrapes. You press harder. The ice gives a little. That's how it goes. Not all at once. Never smooth. You don't lift so much as pry, twist, and heave. Then again. Then again. The goat stares at you from the far corner. She doesn't move, doesn't blink, just shifts her weight slightly with each clump you pull free. Her breath curls in front of her, short and fast, and her hooves are crusted with dried filth. You'll have to scrape them later. For now, you work. The shovel hits a frozen stone, jerks sideways, and you nearly lose your balance. One knee dips into the muck, sending a shock of wet through the fabric. You grit your teeth, not from pain, but from knowing that you have to finish the whole space, corner to corner, before it's too dark to see what you're doing. You shift position, plant your feet wider, and keep going. The goat huffs. Somewhere behind her, the other animals rustle faintly, but she stays fixed on you, as if judging how well you're doing. Your nose runs constantly now. It started earlier, in the wind, but the effort has made it worse. You sniff, wipe it on your sleeve, then forget about it. There's no point trying to stay clean. Not here. The work becomes rhythm again. Jab, twist, lift, toss. The pile behind you grows slowly, steaming faintly where the heat from deeper layers meets the cold air. Your back tightens, your knees burn. One of your fingers feels bruised inside the glove, though you can't remember when it happened. You try not to breathe through your nose. You try not to breathe at all when the wind shifts wrong and sends the stench up too fast. But it's everywhere. In your clothes, in your hair, behind your eyes. When the pen is finally clear enough that the goats can lie down without sinking into last week, you stop. You lean on the shovel and stretch your back, vertebrae cracking softly beneath the layers of cloth. The goat blinks once, then turns away. Dismissed. You drag the waste outside, one heavy scoop at a time, dumping it into the pit behind the shed, where it will freeze again tonight and thaw in the spring. Maybe. You rinse the shovel in a bucket of slush. The water turns brown immediately. You leave it. It's done. For now. You wipe your hands on your coat, smear more than clean, and rub your wrist against your nose again. It's raw now, red and cracked, but you don't notice until later, when the wind hits it on your way back to the house. There's never enough water, not in winter. You don't drink much, not really, but the fire drinks constantly. The animals too. They won't touch snow unless they're starving, and even then they lick it like punishment. Dishes need rinsing, wounds need soaking, clothes need wetting before they'll soften. You know you'll need more before night falls, so you stand again, back sore from the pen, legs stiff, and reach for the buckets near the door. The handles creak. One is slightly cracked near the base. You've wrapped it in twine, but it leaks anyway. You carry them both out without a word, boots squishing on the wet floorboards, shoulder brushing the doorframe as you pass. No one offers to help. No one has to. This is your job. This is always your job. Outside, the light is changing. It's not quite sunset. That comes later, sharper. But it's already dimming in that gray, shapeless way winter light disappears. The sky loses detail. The snow flattens. The world feels lower. You step into your earlier footprints, what's left of them, half frozen, half filled. The path to the well is still open, but softer now, more uneven. You walk slowly, buckets swinging at your sides, arms pulled long by their weight. Your left shoulder twinges with each step. The cold settles into your joints again, deeper now that you've stopped moving for too long. Your breath fogs, not in puffs, but in slow plumes that break apart behind you. The wind's dropped, but the stillness is worse. It makes everything sound louder. The crunch of snow, the groan of the handle, the wet slap of your boots. You reach the well and set the buckets down with more force than you intended. One tips. Water sloshes out. Not much, but enough to freeze into a patch of glass on the stones. You mutter, catch it by the rim, and right it again. The rope is still stiff, the crank hard to turn. You lower the bucket, listening to the creak of wood, the soft slap when it breaks the surface, the sudden resistance when it fills. Then you pull. It takes both arms now. The water's heavier when your muscles are tired. Your hands slip slightly, but you manage. You pour the first bucket carefully, letting it flow cleanly, then switch and lower the second. This time it jerks halfway down. The rope snags, or maybe the ice shifted. You wait. It loosens. You reel it in. The second bucket doesn't fill all the way. You know that before you even reach the top. It's lighter, the balance off. You check anyway. Half full, maybe less. But it's dark now. You don't have time for on the run. You lift them both, adjust your grip, and start back toward the house. The path is harder to see now. One of your boots catches a root or a frozen clump of earth. You stumble, just a little, and one bucket tips again. This time more spills, a long splash across your pant leg and into your boot. The cold hits instantly. You don't curse. You don't stop. You keep walking, faster now, jaw set, breath shallow. When you reach the door, the buckets knock against the frame as you duck inside. You set them down hard, not out of anger, but out of defeat. Water's water. What's left will have to be enough. You knew it might happen. The water had already felt slower on the rope, sluggish and heavy like it was moving through honey. And now, with the last light fading and the cold deepening by the hour, the surface has locked over again, a clear lid, thick and silent, as if the well never opened at all. You lean over the stone ring and exhale. The breath fogs and swirls but makes no impression on the ice. There's no mist, no movement, just a glassy stillness that seems too smooth to be real. You try the crank, slowly lowering the bucket. It touches the ice with a hollow clink and skids sideways. No give. You yank the rope back in with a tight jaw and set the bucket down roughly. You need water. Tonight, tomorrow, always. Waiting isn't an option. You pick up the iron bar you left nearby for this exact task. You knew it would come to this. It always does. The first strike is cautious, a test. It bounces. The second is harder, more deliberate. It leaves a white mark, nothing more. You wrap your hand tighter around the bar and start swinging properly now. Full, low arcs that drive the tip down with weight and purpose. The sound echoes dull and low, not a crack but a kind of protest. The ice starts to chip, then resists again. You adjust your grip, pressing your bare palm tighter into the cold metal, and swing again, and again. The numbness in your fingers spreads quickly, turning from sting to ache to something less defined. But your knuckles don't go numb fast enough. The skin splits at the base of your thumb first, then near the joint. The blood comes slowly. Not much, not fast, but bright against the dark metal, already drying in the cold before it can run. You don't stop. You can't. The rhythm becomes its own kind of silence. Strike, recoil, reset, breathe. The sound of the iron against ice is no longer sharp. It's dull, as if the cold itself is absorbing the impact. The handle slips once and your palm slams into the edge of the stone. You grunt and reposition, flexing your hand once just to check. It works. That's enough. The ice finally begins to give. Not fully, not cleanly, but you see it buckle. Feel the vibrations change. The bar sinks an inch, then two. A crack spiders across the surface. Not much, but enough. You wedge the bar in and lever it sideways, hearing the groan of strain echo up from below. Then the surface caves inward with a low, wet pop. The sound is ugly and soft and good. You drop the bar and breathe out hard. The water beneath is still black, still waiting. You lower the bucket again, this time with both hands steadying the rope. Your knuckles are raw and sticky, the blood stiff now, darkening in patches. The cold numbs the sting, but not completely. Your wrists ache. Your shoulder burns. But the bucket sinks, tilts, fills. When you draw it up again, the water sloshes, and you hold it over the stones with care. You don't spill a drop. You tip it into the wooden basin, and watch steam rise faintly from the surface. It's not warm, just warmer than the air. You let your arms fall to your sides and close your eyes for half a breath. The wind brushes against your face. The cold reminds you that the job is never just once. This ice will return tomorrow, and so will you. You enter low, pulling the door closed behind you with your elbow, trying not to spill what little water you've brought in. The door sticks on the warped floor, and a gust of cold air slips in before the frame catches. The warmth inside is barely warmth at all, more like remembered heat, diluted and sour. The fire is alive, but only just. Coals pulse beneath the half-burnt wood, sending up steady smoke that should have gone out the chimney, but instead clings low to the ceiling, curling like damp fog around the rafters. It hangs there, thick and gray, drifting just high enough to sting the eyes without rising further. The chimney has drawn poorly all week. The pitch in the seams must be cracking again. You smell it, sap and soot and something bitter. You step around the bowls by the hearth and set the bucket down with a grunt. No one looks up. Your wife sits near the wall, scrubbing at a cloth with water from the earlier trip. Her movements slow, not careful. One of the children is bent over, coughing into the bend of an elbow, the sound dry and rattling. The others are lying down. You can't tell if they're sleeping or just still. Your father is seated on the stool again, staring at the fire as though it might answer him if he just watched long enough. He's coughing too, more quietly than the rest, but more often. No one says anything. The fire pops once. The roof groans in reply. You pull off your coat and shake out the snow. It lands in clumps on the dirt floor and soaks in fast. The floor is never dry in winter. The air itself seems to sweat. You sit near the fire and hold your hands close. The heat is shallow. It dries your skin before it warms it, making the blood in your knuckles pulse under the split flesh. Your shoulders are damp. Your back is stiff. The stink of smoke clings to everything: hair, skin, fabric, breath. You can smell the old food cooked into the walls, the wet wool, the animal grease from someone's hands. One of the children stirs and asks for water, voice thin and scratchy. You hand them a cup without speaking. They sip, cough, sip again. The fire flickers sideways with a small draft, and you lean forward to shift a log. Ash rises. Your eyes burn. You blink hard. No one moves to open the door. Even a fresh breath of wind would be colder than the smoke. The room doesn't feel full, but it doesn't feel empty either. It feels like something that's been used too long without being aired out. You can feel every body inside it, not from sight, but from heat, from breath, from sound. Wet socks dry over the fire, steaming faintly, releasing the sour, earthy scent of wool and feet. A shirt hangs near the back wall, stiff with frost from earlier, now slowly sagging as it thaws. You listen to the breathing, light, heavy, interrupted by coughs. Your own chest feels tight, but you're not sure if it's from smoke or cold or the long wait of the day. You stretch your legs toward the edge of the fire's reach and close your eyes, just for a moment. The fire cracks. The air shifts. You don't sleep, but you stop thinking for a while, and that's enough. The light is nearly gone when your wife starts on the porridge. She doesn't say anything, just rises slowly from the wall where she's been sitting, moves stiffly toward the hearth, and begins stirring what's left in the pot. There's no fresh grain. What's there is a mixture of yesterday's meal and the thin broth from this morning, thickened by time and smoke and whatever she could scrape from the bottom. The wooden spoon moves slowly, dragging through the paste with a dull sound, like boots through wet dirt. She adds a splash of water from the last bucket, not enough to loosen it, just enough to call it food again. The smell isn't strong. The steam rises without scent, without promise. Still, it gathers everyone, not with words, just by motion. The children pull themselves up from the blankets without being told. The smallest is helped by the oldest, their steps slow, eyes half shut from fatigue, not sleep. Your son moves near the hearth to hold the bowls. You sit where you are. Your legs don't want to bend again just yet. Your wife ladles the porridge in even portions, carefully, watching how much goes into each. You see her pause once, looking into the pot, then change the angle of her wrist to make it stretch further. Bread crusts are passed next, a handful, softened by steam and age. You think one might have had mold yesterday. No one mentions it. The bowls are passed out, the crusts placed gently on top like garnish. It's something to chew. That's what matters. No one speaks. The only sounds are spoons against wood, breathing, a cough now and then. One child swallows too fast and hiccups. Another eats with their eyes closed, rhythm steady, automatic. You eat slower tonight. Not because you want to, your body aches for food, but because the texture makes you pause. The porridge sticks to your teeth, to the roof of your mouth. It's warm, but barely. Your jaw is sore. Your lips are cracked, and each bite scrapes against them. The crust is hard, but you suck on it until it softens. You glance at your wife. She's not eating yet. She watches the children instead, counting bowls in silence. When she does take her own, it's the smallest one. She doesn't sit. She leans against the wall. The room holds its breath. The fire is down to its core glow, barely light at all, just warmth you can feel with your knees if you sit close enough. The smoke is less now. Maybe the wind shifted. Maybe it's your imagination. The porridge fills your stomach just enough to quiet it. Not to satisfy, not to restore, but to end the conversation. Hunger isn't sharp anymore. It's a hum, a weight, like carrying a stone in your coat pocket. You forget it's there until it shifts. When the bowls are empty, they're set aside, not washed. There's no water for that. Someone mutters a thank you, but it fades fast. You don't respond. No one does. Gratitude feels too expensive. And anyway, it's night now. There's nothing left to say. The final act of the day is done without urgency. Not because there's time, but because there's nothing left to rush toward. You rise slowly, joints stiff and unwilling, and cross the room to the door. It doesn't close cleanly anymore. The wood has warped, swollen with moisture, and the frame leans just enough to catch. You lift, push, and feel the latch catch with a reluctant thunk. Then you drop the wooden bar across it, not for safety, but for finality. No one is coming in. You press your palm against the frame one last time, as if testing whether it might hold out the cold a little longer tonight. A draft slides in through the bottom crack. You know it will. You feel it brush your toes, like the breath of something old, slow, and certain. You move to the hearth and crouch, brushing away the dry ash to find the last living heart of the fire. One ember, orange and deep, pulses against the blackened wood like a dying eye. You nudge it with the iron poker, gentle but insistent, coaxing it into motion. It flares slightly, then settles back. The rest of the coals are dry, tired. You add a splinter or two, small dry twigs that your son collected earlier and left near the wall. They smoke more than burn. Still, they catch enough to whisper faint heat. You lean close, shielding the glow with your hand, not to protect it, but to borrow its warmth. It doesn't offer much. Your breath fogs in the space between you and the stone. The fire smells tired, like it's burned too many nights without being fed properly. The room darkens around you. No one lights a lamp. There's no oil to spare. The only light is what the ember gives, a faint flicker that moves along the rough surfaces of the walls and the curled forms of your family. Your wife has already laid the children down, tucking them under what blankets are still dry. She whispers something, a word, a prayer, or maybe just breath, and sits beside them with her back to the door. Your father hasn't moved in a while. He's seated with his head lowered, hands on his knees, eyes half closed. You think he's asleep, but you don't check. You stir the coals one last time, then slide the poker aside. The sound it makes against the stone is the only noise in the room. You sit against the wall, your back to the cold wood, your knees drawn up close. The darkness has settled now. It's thick, not frightening, just final. You hear the wind scratch at the outside boards. Not a howl, not a scream, just a dry, persistent rubbing, like a branch or a nail dragging slowly, rhythmically, endlessly. The kind of sound you forget about until you notice it again, and then can't ignore. Your hands are folded across your lap. Your boots are still on. You don't have the energy to remove them. The fire cracks once, not loudly, just enough to prove it's still trying. You close your eyes. You don't sleep yet. You simply sit, waiting for the quiet to thicken, waiting for the day to finally let go. You lie down where you are, not in a bed, just in the only space that's left between your eldest child and your father, both already settled into their own quiet stillness. The day hasn't ended as much as it's collapsed into itself. You don't remove your boots. You don't undress. You don't even speak. You simply lower your body onto the straw, damp in patches, sharp in others, and try to fit into the warmth that's left behind. There's no room to stretch, no comfort to find, and no ceremony to mark the shift from waking to sleep. You cover your legs with the corner of the blanket that someone else has already taken most of. It doesn't help, but you do it anyway. The fire is nearly gone now, just a dull ember that doesn't reach past the hearth. You close your eyes, not because you feel tired anymore, but because there's nothing else to do. The cold sinks in deeper now that you've stopped moving. The skin on your hands is rough and tight, and one toe feels dead already, but you don't check. You can't. There's no strength left for checking. The air inside is thick, not warm, just full. Full of breath, smoke, the sour smell of unwashed bodies, boiled roots, and damp wool. Someone shifts, a child sighs, the fire snaps, a throat clears. You match your breath to the rhythm of the room, slow and uneven. Your chest aches in the way it always does at night, and your neck doesn't want to turn to either side. You keep your arms folded over your stomach and let your mind wander without asking it to. A bit of wood creaks in the ceiling above. Someone outside might be walking past, or maybe it's just the wind dragging something over the roof. You think about the goat, about the bucket you spilled, about the crust you didn't eat. You wonder if your wife noticed. You wonder if you'll have the strength to go to the forest again tomorrow. Then you stop wondering. Not because the thoughts are done, but because your body is slipping beneath them. It's not like falling asleep. There's no soft descent. It's more like sinking into frozen mud, slow, heavy, with the faint hope you'll be pulled back out again by morning. Sleep doesn't come. It overtakes. It smothers. It steals. You don't know the moment you go, only the dullness that spreads from your chest to your fingertips, from your thoughts to your bones. You lose track of the sounds around you. The fire may still be alive, but it no longer flickers in your mind. Your son's foot is pressed lightly against your shin, but you've stopped feeling it. Your father's breath is more wheeze than rhythm, but even that fades to background. You think, for a split second, about morning, about whether the door will open, whether your hands will still work, whether the day will be any different. But then even that thought leaves you. You're not resting. You're retreating. Giving up control to whatever this is. Not peace, not sleep. Just a kind of absence, a pause. And in that pause, with your face pressed to a shared blanket, your feet half numb, and your mind hollowed out by fatigue, you go. Fully, quietly, without dreams, without resistance. Just one more body in the dark, hoping the cold doesn't take more than it already has. You've made it to the end. One full day. The cold didn't stop. The work never ended. And sleep, if it came, didn't promise anything. But that was life. Just one day after another, until it wasn't. There's nothing else now. No more steps to take. No more words to hear. Just the quiet. Stay in it, if you like. Good night.